Hi there, Rebecca here, and I am bringing you a different kind of video tonight. I decided I kind of want to start a new series on the channel, kind of covering, I don't like to call it paranormal. I really don't have a term, but basically my extra sense or my experiences with things I can't explain or that I believe to be of another world or of an extension of this world. Part of that is what is called astral projection. And one of the things that is part of my extra is astral projection. And I've only more recently kind of added that term to it. I'm not even sure that fully fits it, but according to Wikipedia, astral projection is a term used in esotericism to describe a willful out-of-body experience that assumes the existence of a soul or consciousness called an astral body that is separate from the physical body and capable of traveling outside it throughout the universe. And this kind of plays into what I kind of believe is the after, or, the beyond, as far as what happens after our physical bodies are done here on this plane, whatever this is. You can't kill a soul. You can't kill the essence. The essence cannot die. You can't kill energy. You can't kill air. So I do, obviously, the physical body dies, but I don't believe that the soul in the true depth of it, ever ceases to exist in some capacity. So with astral projection, as I apply it to my life and my understanding, is that very thing, that essence of you, what makes you you, leaves your physical body, kind of like it would at the time of death. What I assume, I mean, clearly I don't know exactly what happens when you die, but I do believe that the soul, the essence, leaves the physical body permanently, obviously, at the time of death. But in astral projection is not death, it's intentional separation of the physical body and the spirit. When you astral project, you're more able to communicate with those that have passed on this realm, because they are separated from their physical bodies as well. And so that's kind of the place where I feel like I'm able to connect and communicate with those that are in the spirit form as opposed to the physical sense, if that makes sense. That's something that I have done my whole life without even realizing it. I can remember as a young girl going to bed, and it's really complicated to explain. I've had the few people that I really told this stuff to are like, don't ever tell anybody else that, you'll be committed. But it's just part of who I am. To calm myself at night, what I thought I was doing was just imagining. Sounds weird, but I would picture myself in the hallway of my elementary school, and there was a person that went from door to door and collected all the attendance sheets, and I would picture that, but I would picture still being in the physical place of the person that just picked up the attendance sheet and walked away. That probably sounds insane. But what I believe I was doing was kind of a slight slip in between. I guess to better explain is I think that everything has a fork, in that when any kind of event happens, there are multiple possibilities and multiple, I think, realms where different outcomes occur. So I believe I was kind of slipping in and out. It's so hard to explain, and I sound like I'm a babbling crazy person. Without being in my head, it would be impossible to kind of capture, but I was doing some sort of playing in between realms, if you will, without even realizing that I was doing it, is I was able to kind of jump into the different tines of the fork, if that makes it a little more clear. And when I would kind of tap into a different outcome, if you will, I would get this body rush. The best way I can think of to explain it is like that big boat ride at pretty much every amusement park in the world. That, not the one that goes all the way in a circle, but it goes up and down. And when you get up to the high part, and then you come back down, or really on a roller coaster, any those butterflies, that feeling like almost like you're gonna pass out, but in a good way, and those crazy tingles in your stomach, and almost a weightless feeling. That takes over my whole body when I kind of slip in between. This sounds nuts, but hey, I'm telling it like it is. I've done that my whole life. And as an adult, not so much, but I remember very distinctly as a child kind of playing around in the realms, if you will, and getting that crazy rush of whatever it is, which is what I think was my physical body's response to leaving. You with me? You with me? Another part of it is my many experiences with death starting really young, and I think I'll get into that in later videos possibly. It affected me very deeply from a very young age. I've always felt very connected to it, almost familiar with it. I remember having very vivid dreams from a very young age of dying and the moments leading up to when the physical body separates from the spirit. And it was familiar. It wasn't even necessarily a nightmare because it was so familiar and so common for me to have dreams of the moment of that separation. And it didn't scare me as a child. It scares me more as an adult, especially now knowing what an adult knows versus what a child knows. I feel like I know, you know? That's just always been my reality. Throughout my years, I have been pulled in many different directions by this sense, good and bad, and luckily I've had some mentors along the way to kind of teach me how to keep out the bad and embrace the good. Luckily, I was able to kind of master that early on because I do sense and see a lot that I would say most people don't or don't believe in. I think a lot of the sixth sense or third eye people that use it or believe in it is because they believe in it, and the skeptics have their third eye shut, so they don't see stuff. There's a lot that I choose not to believe, and there's a lot that I have to believe because I've personally seen it or experienced it. I worked in a very haunted building for many years. I saw things on a daily basis. I've had spirits kind of try to tell me things. And I'm not talking like voices in my head here, people. I'm talking almost like an intuition, like you just know things. Or you just feel compelled to think about something or to put something together. And I'm sure I'll go into more of that in a later story time, but I'm just trying to kind of touch on the many facets of my otherness. That's kind of that. I do believe that Roxy has seen my late husband, her dad, on multiple occasions. I actually have some footage I captured of what I thought was her first vision, and I felt it as well. It does run in my family, and I do think that part of it, I've always believed that part of it is my Cherokee blood, Cherokee Indian blood, which I have I think an 8th, a 16th? I think it's a 16th, but it's enough to count if you ask me. And I think that it kind of comes from that, from my great grandmother who was a Cherokee and was an amazing woman. Unfortunately, she passed when I was quite young, but I got a lot of years in. I'm glad that my parents brought me around her because I can remember her very vividly, even though I was small. I've talked to my great uncle, which would be her son, about some things, and my dad, and it's just always been comforting to have people that I can trust to kind of talk to about it. I think the reason I want to talk about it is because it's not something I need to hide or be ashamed of. It's not something I'm going to walk around with holding a sign about, but there might be other people out there that are either interested or think they're nuts. Maybe you are, but maybe you're not. Maybe you just have your third eye open, and that's okay too. I've had some really awesome, beautiful experiences too. Those are the ones I am wanting to talk about and share because, like I mentioned, my daughter seeing her late father in spirit. That was awesome. I mean, heartbreaking, obviously. I think all children are born with their third eye open. And I think it's the world that shuts it before you reach adulthood in a lot of cases. And for the skeptics out there, I respect your skepticism. For those out there who may understand what I'm talking about, soldier on, sisters and brothers. There's definitely plenty of crazy up here, but there's also definitely some extra intuition. It's kind of cliche about like having a dream and then it comes true, only I can really tell a difference between a dream, like just a blurb of different things in your consciousness, and a vision or a premonition. And I think that's why a lot of people have experiences when they dream, being visited maybe from people that have passed, or seeing things when they're sleeping, because your awareness is open, your third eye is open when you're sleeping. That's kind of contradictory, but you know what I mean. When you're asleep, your subconscious is kind of running the show. Your filter, your cynicism, your skepticism is kind of gone. And I think you're just more receptive to things. And I think that's why people a lot of times have those kind of experiences when they're sleeping. And I do think that in general, that place of not quite awake and not quite asleep is very close in line with astral projection. I think that's where it starts. And again, because your body, your brain is processing things differently as you fall asleep and when you're asleep. And I do think that they're very similar in a lot of ways as far as being receptive to the spirit world, if you will. No, not a big, huge, spooky ghost story tonight. I do have a lot of stories and I want to be doing story times, but I just kind of want to just start the ball rolling kind of as to how I interpret things and what I believe, and kind of give y'all a little insight as to what I think. I've always been very drawn to cemeteries. I grew up like a couple blocks from one, and I spent a lot of time there. My husband's urn is now in that cemetery. I feel at peace there. And a lot of people are very creeped out by cemeteries, and I'm very aware of that. It's odd that I enjoy being at cemeteries, but I do. I'll put a little link somewhere up here to a little short film I did about some time I spent at my cemetery. It's called Garden of Memories, and it's a very special place to me, even more so now. My grandparents are there. Dean, my late husband, is there, and a lot of other loved ones that have passed in my 33 years. I do think it's all intertwined. All these things are just different facets of me. I think that's awesome. I've embraced it, and I think everybody should. Whether it's, no matter what it is, if there's parts of you that you think are weird, or you think you're different, or, that you feel like you have to hide, embrace them. If they're positive things, embrace them and bring in the good and push out the bad. And, what I believe about, the spirit world, doesn't hurt anybody. And what I may believe that my brain processes or interprets, or what my spirit speaks to, doesn't hurt anybody. So going forward, I will be sharing some of my stories. I don't generally talk about the dark stuff because I was taught not to. But like I mentioned before, there are a lot of love and light stories that I think are beautiful to share with the world and YouTube. With that, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to plug them down there. If you haven't subscribed, please do. It's a rat race out there, you feel me? So, thank you so much. If you're still watching, good on you. Thanks for being here. And I will see you in my next video. Bye.